Am I the butthole for not wanting to be in a child's life that I gave birth to? Background: my best friends couldn't have children, the risk of her death was too high and she already was having fertility problems. So long story short, I agreed to be her family surrogate mostly due to the fact that she was my best friend. I cannot stand her husband though, the only reason I did this was for her. So I became pregnant with their child and everything went smoothly. There was a contract in place that I wouldn't be financially responsible for the kid and so on. It was a pretty standard contract. Well, that was 6 years ago and my best friend died. Due to the 2020 plague, I wasn't able to attend her funeral. Her husband has been calling me recently that I should step up as the kid's mother because I did give birth to her. He keeps calling that I need to be in his daughter's life. After declining multiple times, I finally told him that kid isn't mine even though I gave birth to her. That I have no obligation to do jack crap and that I'm not going to replace my best friend as her mother. He called me a butthole and going to get his lawyer involved. So am I the butthole? You're NTA. Let him get his lawyer. He doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. I am really sorry you're going through this. Keep records of your conversations in case you need to get a no-contact order. This sounds like he was not involved in parenting and continuing to avoid it after his wife's death. NTA, although I'm nervous for the child. Yeah, looks like he's trying to get a free babysitter and up. I agree, he's after a free babysitter and faux stepmommy. Unless you want to go after full custody, cut him off and out of your life. I'm sorry you and the kids lost someone who was important to you. The guy is in the wrong, agreed, but there's no evidence he wasn't involved. Raising a kid with 2 people is hard, by yourself especially out of the blue is a nightmare. He's never had to do it on his own and needs help. If he had died instead, the wife probably would be doing the same. A sudden shift that hard in your life, especially with kids involved, is not easy to handle. He might be having a tough time, but that's exactly the kind of crap you sign up for when you choose to have a child. Edit. As this comment seems to have gotten some traction, I'd like to add that it is okay for the dude to ask for, need help, but it is not okay in the way he chose to do so. Especially since original post doesn't have the obligation to help him or the child out. Exactly, no amount of my partner dying would have me harassing our surrogate for help. That dude needs help, but not from up. I hope the kid is okay. Skeptical. Yep, it sucks that the child always loses in these kind of situations. Yeah, I'm going to agree. Everyone always wants to play devil's advocate, like if this were a woman. Like, no, sorry. I wouldn't feel different. There is a difference between asking for help from someone you might possibly consider being emotionally invested in the issue to threatening or bullying someone into doing something they otherwise have no obligation to. Like what? Original post NTA. Calling original post a butthole and threatening her with legal action is not the way to go in your scenario. Nowhere in that comment did they say it was. They literally started their comment with "the guy is in the wrong." Why is this sub like this? Yes, the person is a butthole, but here is some nuance, or additional information, or a correction about an assumption. Oh my god, I can't believe you think this butthole was justified in what they did. I get frustrated by it too sometimes. I think some people just want a black and white bad guy, and find it difficult to empathize. They can't pull from their own experiences and respond. I think at times some people can relate too easily to an experience, X, being coerced into doing something they never intended or wanted to do, and end up disregarding any nuance or detail. They have their reason for why it happened to them, and it must be a similar reasoning for why it's happening to someone else. Crap. Some of these situations are so outlandish you can't even believe someone would act a certain way. Hard not to just say, Buddha, or NTA. People project a lot on here. If any post is even sort of like something they went through, they fill in the blanks with their own experience with no consideration that their assumptions could be wrong. It's infuriating sometimes. Nowhere in that comment did they say, "Oh my god, I can't believe you think this butthole was justified in what they did. Why is this sub like this?" If you are an involved single parent who needs help, you ask other people to babysit. You don't demand that someone step up as the mother and threaten to take legal action if they don't. Even if original post wanted to do this, then the father would be TA for allowing it. This is a 6-year-old girl who just lost her mom. You can't just shove a replacement at her. Yeah, I'm getting new goldfish vibes from this too. Something tells me there's a rushed marriage to an unsuitable stepmother in this family's near future. A rushed marriage to an unsuitable stepmother in this family's near future. That's exactly what happened to me as a child. My dad was unwilling to be a solo parent. Raising children is a woman's job to him, so he married the first single mother who came along. He needed a mom for his kids, she needed a dad for hers, so they got married. She was abusive and selfish and had no business being a parent. My siblings and I would have been better off without her. Same thing happened to me and my brother. My dad didn't think it was a woman's job, but he was afraid of being alone and not at all confident of his ability to parent. She was okay at the beginning, though the signs were all there, but as soon as she got pregnant with his baby, she started treating us like crap. She spent years trying to force my dad to always put her and their kid ahead of us. We both left the country as soon as we were old enough and have very low contact with them now. I've seen many men do this. It's what my dad did after my mom died. A lot of men seem to be absolutely terrified of being a single dad, so they rush to marry the first woman they find to come and play mom to the kids. I can't imagine it often works out well. Oh yeah, I knew a guy who remarried 2 months after his wife died in an accident. When her devastated parents confronted him, he said, "You can grieve for the rest of your lives, but I'm moving on." Holy smokes. That's brutal. I honestly wonder about the woman he married. Yep. Even after the children are grown up, it's remarkable how quickly some men will remarry. It isn't just the parenting they don't want to do. It's the cleaning and cooking and caretaking they want someone else to handle for them. Whereas women take a much longer time to remarry, if at all. He should have thought of those risks then. Too many people go into having children blind. It's tragic, but this is exactly what he signed up for, and it's not OP's responsibility to care for a child that isn't theirs. It's in writing that the child has nothing to do with OP, therefore, original post is NTA. The wife would be doing the same? You think the wife would be threatening her best friend with legal action and trying to shirk her responsibilities as a parent? The dude is under pressure, but that's no excuse for how he's handling this. While the wife would struggle and ask for help if roles were reversed, but even at that, suing the surrogate over parental roles seems a bit too much. While yes, they were the one who was pregnant with the child, doesn't necessarily mean they have to take on a parental role or be legally a parent to the child. There is literally not one word in those paragraphs that indicates any of that. That came from in your head, that did. This sub is the worst when it's anything to do with parents and kids. People infer entire histories and diagnose disorders based on a few sentences or paragraphs. If people just discuss things based on the context given or asked original post questions, it would be a much better sub. NTA, but this is a good lesson to consider both parents before getting involved in a situation like this. I'm sorry for the loss of your friend. NTA. Clearly NTA. You did this for your friend, not for him, period. Your friend died. Sorry for your loss. This does not mean suddenly the kid belongs to you. To you, this kid is not related to you by anything but DNA, which even then, you get the idea. He can get his lawyer involved all he friggin' wants to. You signed a legally binding contract that states you would have no financial responsibility or care for this kid, so you're in the good. I'd still talk to someone in our /legal advice, however, to be safe. He may find some sort of loophole. Reddit link. If she was a gestational surrogate, she's not even related by DNA. He actually does have a legal leg to stand on in both the US and Canada, just so you know. Sperm donors can and have been successfully sued for child support. The right lawyer and the wrong judge could do the same to OP. As far as we know, original post is only a surrogate. She didn't donate an egg. OP's best friend had an egg taken out, mixed with her husband's sperm, and the resulting embryo was placed in OP's uterus. Even if she did donate an egg, she's not liable. The sperm donors who had to pay child support were doing it in sketchy ways through Craigslist or for friends. Sperm donors who do it the right way are not ever legally responsible. That is flat out untrue. The legality of gestational surrogacy varies by state. In California, for example, it is common for surrogacy contracts to require the surrogate not to travel out of state. OP needs legal advice from a serious attorney. Depending on the contract and state in which original post lives, this may be about to be a mess. Regardless, if someone says they're suing you, you need an attorney. Given original post says she has a contract, I'd assume she isn't in a state that bans gestational surrogacy, but she needs a qualified attorney to figure out how big a hassle this is going to be. Laws change. Contracts can contain drafting errors, or just don't imagine a future in which parties are hostile, etc. In California, for example, it is common for surrogacy contracts to require the surrogate not to travel out of state. Yeah, during the 9 months of the pregnancy, not 6 years after the baby has been born. Wholly non-responsive answer. What's the logical fallacy here? Red herring? Not only is everything historical Dare 1045 said true, everything you said had nothing to do with what he said. Grandparent, as far as we know, original post is only a surrogate. She didn't donate an egg. Parent, even if she did donate an egg, she's not liable. Liability will actually depend on state and how good the contracts are. I don't know why you'd think this happened in a state in which gestational surrogacy is not recognized, considering that we know there is a contract, but regardless, he cannot force her to step up as a mother. That's insane. It'd basically be involuntary servitude, not to mention very much not in the best interests of the child. Just to add, gestational surrogacy requires the services of a fertility clinic. You cannot extract an egg from one woman, fertilize it, and implant it in another woman in someone's bathroom. And fertility clinics absolutely do not provide gestational surrogacy services in states in which it is not recognized, and do not provide such services without ironclad contracts. Therefore, while we do not know every fact, what we do know strongly indicates that the dude will not have any luck getting child support from her, and he certainly will not be able to force her to step up as a mother. That is flat out untrue. The legality of gestational surrogacy varies by state. In California, for example, it is common for surrogacy contracts to require the surrogate not to travel out of state. That reminds me of a TV show where a girl decided to carry her best friend's child, but got into an accident and passed. They has an official contract stating it was not her child, she was just a surrogate, and the baby should have automatically gone to the dad, but the contract was from Jersey and the issue happened in New York, where apparently the contract had no standing, and thus her parents were called in and give the authority to take the child, which they were going to do since they fully saw it as their daughter's baby. I mean, in the end they gave up their rights, but yeah. Crazy situation. So the surrogate's parents viewed themselves as grandparents and tried to take the baby away from its own father? I asked my divorce attorney if there were any cases he refused to take. He said one time there were 2 married men who had a surrogate. Surrogate used donated egg and they both contributed a sperm sample, hoping to never know who the bio dad was. While surrogate was pregnant, they started divorce proceedings and neither one wanted the baby. Neither did the surrogate, of course. The lawyer said the law was just way too messy for him to get involved in it. Felt so awful for the kid and the surrogate. Most definitely NTA. This guy sounds like he's wanting someone to do all the work for him, and he's obviously not the best guy based on your judgment of him. He can get all the lawyers involved that he wants, a contract is binding. He needs to be the one to step up. NTA. Right, I get the feeling he didn't want a kid, his wife did, and he agreed to it. He doesn't want her to take responsibility, he wants to push the child off to someone else so he won't have to care and raise for her. I mean, that's a really big leap from the small amount of text here. Dude just lost his wife and we are in the middle of a pandemic, so who knows what his financial situation is. For all we know, he is panicking and doing whatever he thinks is necessary to care for his child because he doesn't have other options. Still NTA. If he has the money for caregivers, lawyers, he has the money for a part-time nanny. Edit, meant to say lawyers lol. That's when you find someone else. I know. In a perfect world, people don't always act rationally when they are backed up against the wall. Like a babysitter and pay them for their time. He's not asking for help, which would be normal in this situation. He's threatening someone who's effectively just a family friend with lawyers in court if she doesn't step up as a mother. That's insane, in a way that grief doesn't excuse and barely even explains. Legit though, what's he want her to do, marry him? He'd better be prepared to pay her if he wants original post as a live-in maid, cause there's not a contract in the world that can legally enforce slavery. This reminds me of the infamous deadbeat mom legal advice post. The guy convinced the casual GF not to get an abortion, so the GF said, "Okay, you raise the baby, and refused to be involved in the baby's life and instead just paid child support, and more than she had to. The guy wanted the courts to force her back to be a mother and called her a deadbeat because he was burnt out and tired of being a single dad. He figured that by the magic of pregnancy, she would fall in love with the baby and stick around and they would have a long-term relationship. Surprise! The entrapment didn't work. Web link. Every time this post comes across my screen, my blood boils a little bit. I have never seen this post mentioned before and I hate knowing I might come across it again. I am absolutely baffled and I hope he did put the kid up for adoption. I feel bad for the kid and bad for the bio mom. I wonder how old they were. I wish she would have known she didn't need his permission to go through with abortion. I hate knowing that a guy like this is out there. Maybe these two idiots can move in together and pool their resources and hire a nanny for their poor kids. I kept thinking of this exact post when I read the op. If op's state is crafty and a judge demands she parent his child, maybe she could sign off all her rights, like the woman in that story, and sure, be stuck with CS, but be rid of that pushy awful deadbeat dad. I know he isn't deadbeat but he sure acts like it. NTA. Time to lawyer up. There must be some kind of protection for op, otherwise being a surrogate would be full of many more issues than normally. Unless they turkey basted her pregnant, but then that would mean the child was made from op's egg, so I sure hope it was done through decent practices, with an egg from the friend, fertilized from awful husband and then let original post surrogate. Edit, no turkey basting. Original post confirmed the offspring is made up of no DNA of hers, and since it's really difficult to backyard surrogate with some else's egg, then she must have used proper methods and official, and legal, routes to become a surrogate. Good luck to that widower though, and especially to his daughter if she's stuck with such a father. I'm carrying for my sister and her husband, their embryo, and the contract is about 50 pages and covers every possibility for before/during/after the pregnancy and birth. Except in our case if something happened to the intended parents, I am the legal guardian, because she is for my kids too if something happened to us. However, the legal document is only a guideline. Whoever gives birth to the baby is legally the parent regardless of genetics, and they have to essentially adopt him from me after birth. If I decide to run away with him, the hospital can't stop me. They can only take me to court after and show the judge the document we signed to say I wouldn't steal him and hope the judge sides with them. I would hope that after this much time a judge would understand this isn't op's child in any way if the dad took her to court, but sometimes it's a crapshoot. The magic of pregnancy almost landed me in the hospital due to hyperemesis and effed up pelvis. I hate it when someone says a pregnant woman glows. You know what that glow is? The sweat of pre-vomit nausea. I really want an update from this story. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.